Not the. Report.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the precinct for pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag. Of the United States of America, a nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. I did it just a little bit out of order. I did actually need a motion for the meeting of order.
Motion.
Second. All those in favor? We are in. First item on the agenda this evening is item 2.1 is the pre-bid summary, and I'm gonna hand it over to Dr. Gervis.
Thank you. I'm joined today by Mr. Rob Cassetta, our district architect, and Campbell Cassetta Architects. We just wanted to start off to describe the attachment and the process that we had to go by, and some of the items related to the resolutions in tonight's agenda. So the 23 roof project. We were fortunate to receive state approval a couple of weeks ago, and both the bid for the projects went out shortly afterward, as did our financing, which was received on Tuesday. So the concept, please jump in at any time with this. The project was broken into 3 different contracts: the roof reconstruction, which is the reskinning, the electrical portion, and the mechanical portion. Now, the latter 2, the purpose behind that is because the Wicks law dictates that we have to divide the applicable mechanical and electrical trade portions once the construction budget exceeds $1.5 million. Now, this portion we have budgeted for $7 million, so that's obviously over that threshold. They're required on each project, specifically for the following items: disconnect and reconnect various pieces of rooftop equipment. They have to be temporarily lifted off the roof and the roof curb and properly flashed by the roofing contractor. So there is some work that's simultaneously going to take place. Once they disconnect, they have to reconnect the electrical power controls, ductwork, and the refrigerant piping. That's the mechanical side of things. So that's the 2 items. And when the bid was structured, they were structured roof, electrical, mechanical. That's the summary for both buildings. With respect to the nuts and bolts, with Sayville High School, we did have 13 firms that downloaded, or previously known as picked up the bid. Most of bids right now you just download. And Ralph does have a tracker as to who and when. 7 roofing firms picked up / downloaded, 3 electrical contracting firms, 1 mechanical construction firm, and interestingly enough, 2 publishing firms. The publishing firms download and then blast it out to anybody or who is on their distribution list, should they wish to bid. That bid opened at 10 o'clock today. For Cherry Avenue Elementary, also 10:30 a.m. Bid opening, 12 firms downloaded, picked up. Packets, 8 roofing firms, 2 electrical contracting firms, 0 mechanical construction firms, and 2 publishers. One of the reasons I just want to point out that you have one more roofing firm is the actual size of the roof. It is smaller, so it's more manageable for some companies. It's a little more enticing that it's a decent sized summer project. Whereas the high school, yes, it is a much larger square foot, and sometimes with manpower, ordering of supplies, it may not be within their scope. So we did open bids today. We spent about 15 minutes for each. We did do the evaluation, and the summary is in the resolutions 3.1 and 3.2. Now, within the resolutions that we're proposing, all that we're actually proposing today is just the roofing portion. And the reason is really financial more than anything else for the other 2. The roofing specs, the roofing base bid, and the alternates, they're in line with what we predicted. The electrical contract, as we had 2 bidders for the high school, the winning bid came in and then let us know shortly afterwards that he couldn't fulfill it at the price because he made a mathematical error. As such, the next highest bid puts the district's finances with this project in a bit of a predicament. It comes very, very close with really very little allowances or differences between what we have budgeted and what the expenses may be. So our recommendation is to reject that portion of the bid and to rebid it in an effort to obtain other bidders at a reasonable price, because the variance is huge between both schools. As for the mechanical portion, we did only receive 1 bid. We feel that it is a little bit high. There was really no comparison with other firms, as we only did have 1 mechanical bid, and that was only submitted for the high school. It wasn't even submitted for
We had bids.
oh, we did have for Jerry, I'm sorry. So as a result, we feel that we would probably look for either competition or some alternative at that point. But in the grand scheme, does it delay the project? The short answer is no. Statewide, if approved, and Barrett, if approved, those are the ones that we're recommending, would be able to purchase the materials and get underway. And they have indicated to us that if possible, they'd like to start prior to July 1st. Now, that's a big if possible. They are aware of the end of year activities and limitations that are in place. So that is a very positive sign. With respect to rebidding contracts, we're looking at a 7-day.
Right, we would put the mechanical and electrical contracts back out to bid next Thursday.
Yes.
And receive bids the following.
Why is there a timeline till next Thursday? Can it just go tomorrow or?
Well, we have to advertise, and so in order to get as soon as we can really get the project out is actually next Thursday.
Okay.
Because we have to have an advertisement and that has to be done on Monday.
Okay.
And
Sam, sorry, you had said that some of the roofing and the electrical work had to be done simultaneously. So what happens if we don't?
so what they're going to do is, once they kick off late June, early June, July, and into August, the roof portion will be done. Luckily, with the electric and the vast majority of the mechanical, they don't need to order supplies. This is really more
Moving
correct.
things.
Moving, changing, it's just some ductwork and piping on the mechanical side that would have to be replaced and moved, that would come later down the line.
Right.
The main legwork of reskinning would be done by the roofing firms. So us pushing back the electric and the mechanical portion won't affect that section of the timeline. And we're hoping to, hopefully this time, have a resolution for both at the June 1st board meeting. But in the interest of finances and working toward the other projects that we mentioned both last year, and that was proposed in the prior bond in 2015. We feel that we can try to get better pricing to make those happen, in particular, the high school ventilation projects mentioned.
How much did we put aside, let's say, for this approximately,
So
for this project,
we
the
had,
high school?
so the high school and Cherry were combined as one.
Okay,
And for that section of the project, it was 7 million out of the 15 million bond, which includes any sort of remediation, testing,
okay,
this portion, architect fees, etc. Part two of the project, which is the other three buildings, minus the middle school's administration. Run as a Lincoln. You're dealing with much smaller square footage. There's $8 million set aside for that portion. I know some work has been preliminary, has been done toward that as well. So those are the finances. Now, again, the variation in prices is drastic enough that it warranted us to make this decision after probably about an hour and a half of deliberation to reject the bids, this is not something obviously we want to come out and say we want to go back and rebid it, but in the interests of the district and the finances, it's the right thing to do.
Is that unusual to do that?
Not unusual. I mean, in this particular case, we'd like to see more interest in the mechanical portion, because we only had one bidder, so it's very hard to compare. Although we think that the number is a little bit high, but in comparing to similar types of work, it's kind of in the ballpark.
Yeah. Do you have an idea why the bids were low or non-existent? Or, well, high, or the amount of people were low, the amount of bids were low, there was only one. Do you know?
I think it's the project, I believe, is simpler than contractors think it is. Okay.
Okay.
Like, for example, a typical roof, when we're overlaying these roofs, and purpose for the overlay is essentially to get a new 20-year warranty for the district with the potential for solar in the future. So we'll give you that option. A lot of the contractors, I believe, think that it's basically tearing the roof down to the deck. Now that makes a big difference, because in today's with today's building code, energy code, when you tear the roof down to the deck and replace, you need to insulate to a much higher standard. And that requires that, but that would be an astronomical cost. That will require all of those units on the picture of high school. High school has over 100 mechanical units on that roof. It would require them to all be raised. So when you raise them, you now have to extend ductwork. You have to extend or replace refrigerant piping. You have to extend or replace electrical wiring. That becomes a much larger project. And I believe that some of the contractors thought that was the scope of the work, which they just didn't really read what the scope of the work was.
Right.
So our goal is to make sure they know what the scope of the work is, and to try to get some additional bidders in for the project, because it really is not a difficult project, because it's basically what we call disconnect, reconnect.
That'd be like portrayed in the advertising, like does the advertising need to be changed up so that.
And I mean, I'll personally discuss it. I mean, we did have a walkthrough with the roofers. The roofers understood the project perfectly. And you know, I mean, to be honest with you, everything looked great until the electrical contractor
Through a wrench and everything.
Because you know, we had an estimate of what's it for the high school. Our total estimate was like $4,368,000, and we summed up the 3 contracts plus the alternates, and it was $4,362,000. I mean, we were off by, it was that close, and that still left I mean, these contracts do have some allowances in them for contingency. So the high school has a total of 120, 110, I believe it was 80, 15, and 15. And then in our estimating, we left another couple $100,000 in for unforeseen conditions. So we felt great about that until Neos.
Yes, yeah, and I just want to mention that, Neos did not go on the walkthrough. It was open for all contractors. They did not participate in that walkthrough, which I think was a big part of the problem, because either A, they would not have bid, or B, they would have modified their bid. Unfortunately, the spread between both submissions is too large to just recommend, just take this one at this time. I don't know if in the future, if any other bids that come in would be in that range. And we say, okay, we do know that this is an adequate price, but to drop out and then just leave this, it's not something I totally feel comfortable with. The other thing is also with respect to the allowances and the other items should all fall into place, and it is a possibility that everything is falling within the numbers at the end of the project. It is those allowances and those differences that could allow us to move forward with the HVAC projects at the high school, which again were proposed about 70 years ago.
Okay,
So,
and is on these, those CEQA on either one of these, or, no? Sorry, CEQA studies?
Secret was.
For the roofing project? No.
That was done before the bond.
Okay,
and just to clarify between the difference between both roofs, there were 3 alternates for the high school roof. One of them, you pick one of the 2, and then alternate number 2. So there's a base bid, there's one alternate for the membrane, and then there is a replacement of the main entrance panels. That's reflected in the resolution. There were no alternates for Cherry Avenue, correct? And you will see that there is the price difference, the proposed price difference, only because you're dealing with a much smaller square footage and area to deal with between both roofs. Associated, well, attached, I should say, are the letter of recommendation for both schools from Campbell Cassetta, and also a letter that we insisted from Neos indicating that they are withdrawing their bid such that it coincides with the resolution. With the proposed rebid, again, we will look to have it prior to the June 1st board meeting at the opening, so it does coincide with that meeting. So if all goes well, we can approve a mechanical and electrical contract.
The electrical contract, that's just the electricians, that's all it is, correct?
Right, and again, it's not a labor intensive in terms of replacing and rewiring and going from, like, say, 120 to 240, or it's really just the movement replacement so that they can do their work, and then reconnecting after that.
Right, that's just Cherry Avenue is a little bit more because there's about 900 linear feet of conduit on the roof that's laid on the roof that is needs to be replaced. So we're replacing that. So, but even that is not a significant amount of work for
electrical conduit, or was it
electrical
refrigerant?
conduit.
Electrical.
It's actually PVC, the electrical conduit, but it's PVC. We'll be changing it to galvanized.
And the gas lines are still, nothing with the gas lines, that's still part of the mechanical part of it,
That's part of mechanical. Right?
as well as any plumbing that's up there. Not really much plumbing up there.
No.
Besides.
And again, mechanical, there will be some duct replacement, but not a tremendous amount.
Right, it's with mechanical, it's mostly disconnects and refrigerants. The refrigerants be reclaimed and then,
I think they reclaim, not gonna, because it's very expensive, but
yes,
very, very expensive.
yes. And then the ductwork does not have to be extended. There are, at the high school, there are 2 areas where there's exposed ductwork that needs to be abated, which is part of the project. And by the roofing contractor. So because of that, those 2 areas need to be re-insulated and then re-waterproofed. So that's in the mechanical contract. So
Well,
These roofs are leaking.
I kind of laugh because I tell all my people that I know, I'll make sure you get your bachelor's degree to become an electrician. That's why I said it was. That's why I'm snickering a little. See what, yeah.
Timeline wise, we asked all of our contractors, would you be able to complete the project by the end of August? They'll give an assurance of yes. And we, in fact, as I said before, one of the remarks was, well, can we even start earlier than July 1st?
We don't have, pretty sure it's not gonna have any effect on summer school at the high school.
Well, yes.
Yeah, all the summer school is gonna be at the middle school and or Lincoln and Summer is gonna hold their summer programs because the roof at Cherry and high school will be being done. And the bathrooms are being done at Sunrise.
And we also made it clear that we would allow it prior to July 1st, as long as it doesn't interfere with any of the evening programs, day programs, et cetera. It has to really be
Done.
Figure it out.
especially the phase of bringing in materials and transporting up to the.
Okay. What else? Run through this quick, okay, we did 2-1. That's just, we really didn't motion for that, but, okay, I need a motion for 3-1 and 3-3,
Motion.
Second.
discussion. All those in favor? Motion carried.
One last item, that you accepted 302. I know that the company is based, it's headquartered in New Jersey, but they do have an outpost, as I understand it, on Long Island.
Right, but we're very familiar with both roofing companies that were low bidder. Statewide Roofing was the low bidder on the high school. Statewide Roofing did the middle school for the district. They've been around for years. It might have even put the old roof on high school wall, which has lasted a long time. And Barrett Roofing is the low bidder for Cherry Avenue School. And we completed a project with them last summer. They were terrific to work with. So we're very happy that those two contractors are on board.
And these roofs are rated 25, how many?
These will be 20-year warranty, right? But all of the edge metal gets replaced. So it's a 20-year total warranty, including the edge of the roof. Sometimes if you just replace the membrane, you don't get that warranty, but that's by replacing it, we will.
I remember statewide too was very accommodating when we did the middle school.
Yes.
Recently.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. What's the purpose of the executive session to discuss?
Legal.
Legal advice. Attorney advice.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I need a motion to go to executive session to get legal advice from our attorney.
Motion. Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Okay, thank you, Sal.